This is the end of the campaigning that's probably ramped up in the past couple of months.
Yes.
So tell me, how has it been campaigning? What's this been like and trying to kind of move into this new role with the city?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm no stranger to campaigning, just from my past experience, and again, running 3 times for Dayton City Commission, and then also serving as a campaign manager. So it's very familiar to me. But nonetheless, running for mayor is no easy feat. And it is challenging in a sense when you talk about all of the various different events that you have to attend, also with the process of me governing as a legislator in my current position as a Dayton City Commissioner. But nonetheless, I feel that as if we ran a people power campaign, we've had a lot of excitement, a lot of momentum, and I'm very excited about the support that we have gained thus far through this cycle. I'm very excited to run with Commissioner Dora Fairchild for re-election as up and coming, who is no stranger to the Dayton area, former City of Dayton employee, as well as a small business owner and a practicing attorney Jacob Davis. So we have an awesome team. And again, we have over 150 volunteers who have stepped up, who've lent their talents, their gifts, their resources, and we're doing the work. We're knocking doors, we're having the conversations. We've held over 60 house parties. And that is commendable within itself, just to talk to residents, to talk to individuals across the city, all 65 neighborhoods, to hear their concerns and what they deem to be the future of the city of Dayton.
What have you heard from the voters that they want to change, or that impact them? What are the biggest issues for the voters and maybe even yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for posing that question, because you're right. There are a lot of angst, there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of unknowns right now. People are in fact in high concern, and being that they don't know what is going to come down the pipeline from the federal, the state level, or the local level. So therefore, people are yearning for change. They want individuals who have the heart, the empathy, and the passion that is going to, one, listen to them, understand the needs of the community, and where they can feel as if they can really be a part of the process. That's what this election is all about, ushering in a new generation of problem solvers. Because again, we don't know what's going already to come down the pipeline. We're in the threat of losing SNAP benefits, which I'm glad to provide an update that our governor did sign an executive order to extend $25 million to those who are impacted by SNAP benefits. But what will happen for the next few months and going into the new year of 2026? So that is why it is very imperative that we need intentional leadership, and leadership who really understands the pains of our community and who's willing to do the work. We cannot do business as usual under this environment. And under my leadership, I know that we can really start addressing the social ills in our community that are impacting so many people. People are concerned with the cost of living. Housing is at the forefront. People are unable to find somewhere that is decent, affordable, let alone the high cost and utility costs, right? A number of things that people, food insecurities, access to health care, all of these concerns are on the forefront. And individuals want to know that the people that they represent is going to represent that they are voting for, rather, is going to represent their best interests. And that's why I'm asking people to vote for myself, Commissioner Fairchild, and Jacob Davis.
You talked about multiple issues, and I know because you're on the commission that you have helped attack many of these issues.
Yes, thank you for recognizing it. Thank you.
Of course. And I want to ask you about one specifically, just because
Please.
I'm trying to give similar questions to
Absolutely.
everyone, but also piggyback. So the public safety component is also one that I've heard. I think housing and public safety have been the two that come up the most. There's been a lot of money allocated to DPD for technology.
Yes.
The new station, temporary permanent, is coming soon.
Right.
To downtown. But there's also been an emphasis on the youth. And,
Yes.
and we know, working in news, we know that this has been an issue, right?
Yes.
Youth violence, and youth maybe not always having other outlets or things to do. So I want to give you a chance to kind of comment on that public safety element and,
Yes.
and our youth. What direction does Dayton need to go?
That's a great question, and it is an important question for a number of reasons. We know that 74% of the city's budget is from police, fire, as well as public works. our safety services. That is the majority of the city of Dayton's budget. And with that, we also know that we have to reimagine public safety. We know that right now we have a total of 344 officers who are on the streets, who are doing the work, the critical work that we have trained them to do, that we have entrusted them to do. But all the while, we have to make sure they have the tools and the resources that they need. Our ultimate goal is 365. We're not quite there yet. We do have 2 graduating classes in the 1st of December. And so I look forward to meeting a lot of those cadets as they move over to serve the residents in the city of Dayton. But we also need to make sure that with technology that we are protecting the civil liberties of those in this community, the residents in the city of Dayton, by all the while giving our PD members the resources that they need. And we do so by making sure that we have other outlets and other mechanisms that we are reviewing. I'll give you a prime example. Community resource officers or community liaisons is a prime example of what we're seeing across the country. When you look at Portland, Oregon, when you look at West in terms of California, Louisville, Kentucky is utilizing this model so that we can, again, reduce the strain and the pressures that our PDs are dealing with in terms of mental health calls. They should not be dealing with mental health calls. We need licensed, trained professionals to be out in our communities to address those concerns, whether it's mental illness, whether it's employment opportunities, linking individuals up with those resources, those critical resources that they need. We also have a growing unhoused population. PD should not be addressing those concerns. That is something that we need to move forward with, and that is a part of reimagining how we look at public safety in our community by freeing up our officers to do the critical job that they have been trained to do. And under my leadership with Jacob Davis and Commissioner Fairchild, we are willing to do that work in partnership with many of our social services who are already doing this work, but they need the support of the city, and we can give them that. MVHO, Miami Valley Housing Opportunity, they have a PATH program. It is right for us to link together, to work together, for us to address the social ills in our community by having community resource liaisons that are a part of our communities, whether it's downtown pilot program, the success of that, we can move it out into the 65 neighborhoods.
And moving on, because you touched on federal, and I've also touched on this in my interviews, there's a lot going on the federal level.
There's a lot going on.
Also, quite a bit on the state level, and all of
Yes.
this trickles down into local government. When you talk to voters, do you feel like voters are engaged on a local level and want to be engaged, or do you feel like people are just exhausted at this point with all the things going on?
You know, all the things, right? All the things. I will tell you, people are, in fact, they're exhausted. But there's also hope in that, because we know that our democracy is the local government, rather, is the bedrock of our democracy. And people are showing up, they're giving voice to their issues. Hence the reason why we were so successful in our 60-plus house parties, because people want to be involved. They know no other way to get involved but at the local level. So I'm hopeful the turnout for this election cycle will be there, right? We will see the numbers and that people will lend their voice in the ballot box. And this is an opportunity for people to get involved. And so therefore, as we ramp up for the midterms and so on and so forth, people will already have their practice in with the local election.
Touch on SNAP, because that has been a big story,
Yes.
and I know there's been some progress with that on multiple levels. But if you become mayor, we may be really only in the beginning of seeing the impact of the government shutdown, plus things like SNAP possibly not being funded. We don't know how long this is going to happen. So, if you are elected, how do you help make sure, with other leaders by your side, that would be, that these things don't impact Daytonians quite as harshly?
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said with other leaders. That's what this work is all about, in partnership with our local leaders, making sure that we're working across the aisle with our state representatives, our state legislators, our county legislators, working together, even at the federal level, working to make sure that we are easing the burden that many of our residents may experiencing. Again, we don't know what's coming down the pipeline from the state or the federal level, and we know that there are potential threats from our Department of Housing and Urban Development, our continuum of care dollars that that are used to prevent homelessness. So how do we work together to make sure that we are, in fact, stop the bleeding, if you will, and we do so in partnership, having a listening ear, willing to compromise, willing to listen, and also answering the call of our residents. That's what it's going to take, real intentional leadership that is willing to compromise and willing to listen.
And then lastly, I'm just going to give you a chance, for voters that, maybe voting Monday or this weekend or whatnot, what's kind of your last minute message to voters out there?
Yeah, my last minute message is simple. It's time for us to usher in a new generation of problem solvers. That's what this work is all about, passing the baton, passing the torch to do the necessary work that we have in our communities. And I'm equipped. I have the expertise, the knowledge, and most importantly, I have the heart to serve. And that's where we are right now. We need servant leadership who's willing to do the work. We know that we don't have all of the answers in local government, by no means, the administration or those who are seeking public office, but willing to work in collaboration with many other partners from our social services, our community leaders, our residents, and having the voice that we can really do this work together collectively, but we have to be very intentional about who we vote into office, especially as we're transforming into all of these various different challenges that we're faced with. But over the next 5 to 10 years, this is an opportunity for us to look forward the future of the city of Dayton. And I am the candidate who can bring forth that future for the city of Dayton with, of course, their help and their support. So I'm excited about this race, along with, running with Commissioner Fairchild and Attorney Jacob Davis. I believe that all three of us have the skill set and the experience. We've displayed that from our experience, our work experience, and our passion and commitment throughout the city. These are the concerns in our community that we're hearing, that we're seeing. This is the Alley and Five Oaks. We know that we have an unfortunate unhoused population. We have individuals who are, in fact, living in garages. We have individuals who are living in vacant buildings, apartment buildings. So we have to do our part in making sure that we have the resources that are available to get one individual's house, to get them linked up and coordinated with the services that they need, so that they can, in fact, have a decent quality of life. We also need to make sure that we are doing our part as an organization, and it's twofold. We need the residents to do their part, as well as the city organization as well, to, again, address the social ills in our community, from the trash, the illegal dumping, and just making sure, again, that we are addressing the eyesores in our community. This building down here is a burnout. I believe that the building may have caught fire over 6 months, maybe 8 months ago, and this should be an emergency removal, because what we are finding is that many of the kids in the neighborhood are playing in these structures, which is, of course, a hazard and is dangerous. So I just wanted to point out a couple of those things.